Good afternoon. I have Ollie in the background. Ollie would like to welcome you to the Arizona Commission for the Deaf and the Hard of Hearing Search Committee special meeting. Today's date is October 1st, and we will call the meeting to order at 4:37 p.m. And we will start with a roll call. Kyla, can you kick that off?
For sure. Commissioner Bulmarsich? Commissioner Herron?
Present.
Commissioner Kidd?
Present.
Commissioner Cinco?
Present.
Then our ADOA rep, Brian Westerberg?
Present.
And then last but not least, ACDHH staff, we've got Ricky Gonsowski.
Present.
And then myself, Kyla Daltonava.
Thank you for that roll call, Kyla. We will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the approval of the meeting minutes from the September 15th meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those meeting minutes? Sarah?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Thank you. And do we have a second? We have a second from Commissioner Herron. Great, thank you. Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to the open discussion on the draft interview questions. As you recall, at our last meeting, we looked through a variety of interview questions that were created. Brian at ADOA went through those documents of questions, and he compiled a list of questions for us. Brian does need to leave at 5:40 today, so I think this would be a good time to open the floor for discussion on this. Brian?
Thank you, Commissioner Chair Sanko. Yeah, the questions that I provided to hopefully everyone got it in advance. That was just a combination of what Commissioner Herron wanted and what we had proposed. So that's the document you're seeing with the 8 questions. Do you want me, I don't really have any questions. It's really up to you all what you want to utilize for your interview questions. And I will say, Commissioner Herron's proposed changes for the scoring rubric is perfectly fine too, and I can update that. I can take that piece that Commissioner Herron, if everyone wants to vote on that, and then we can put that on those at the top of the interview questions for the rubric. That's not. I talked to George about that earlier. He's preoccupied with some several meetings today.
Okay, and I recognize Commissioner Kidd turned his camera on. Do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. I think it's best if we move to executive session to discuss details. I do not have any concerns. I just didn't want to erroneously overstep into certain territories. So we could please move to executive session.
Okay, so it's been a long week for me. When we go into executive session, do we need to go for a vote first?
I believe we can move with just a motion without a second, but I may want to refer that to Kyla, or maybe Commissioner Herron has a better idea of how to do this.
Yeah, Commissioner Herron.
I would second that we move into executive session. So let's go for it.
All right, let's move into executive session. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, everyone. We will move on to the next agenda item, which is community town hall and community feedback. I will open things for discussion.
Mr. Kidd here. I'm not quite sure I recall correctly from our previous discussion, but I believe this is in relation to the second round of interviews. Is that when we're doing the town hall, or are we talking about the survey we're sending to the deaf community members? That's my problem at the current moment.
Kyla, are you able to help us out here?
Of course. I am of the belief, and I could be completely off here, but I believe that the community event would be something that you guys are going to be doing after you've selected your 2 finalists. I'm not 100% sure, and you guys have, obviously the authority to decide which way you want to go with that. But if we are attempting to kind of mirror what we did last year, that was a setup that we used, that it was not until we had the final candidates that a meet and greet was discussed. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
Thank you, Kyla.
Okay. So in that case, because I was not on the board last time when all of that was scheduled, was that virtual or in person meet and greet?
The meet and greet was held in person.
Okay. I'm not sure exactly what we need other than I would prefer advance notice for that event, not have it be a last minute thing that goes out. So that means we're going to need to schedule that as soon as possible. And hopefully it works out well that we have the second round of interviews, the meet and greet, final candidates picked. We need to coordinate all that.
Commissioner Bolmarsich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Commissioner Bomarsich. At our last meeting, we discussed a sort of virtual town hall so that people in the state who aren't close to the actual ACDH headquarters could participate and meet the candidate. Is that idea still on the table?
Commissioner Kidd.
I'm in full support of that. I mean, hopefully we can coordinate both an in-person and a virtual, if that's at all possible. I know it's a heavy load for Ricky to undertake, but that would save us a lot of time and planning instead of having an in-person one and then a completely separate virtual one statewide. What's everybody else's opinion?
Commissioner Herron, what are your thoughts?
Lots of thoughts.
Lots of
First
thoughts.
of all, I'm looking at the agency. ACDHH serves all of Arizona, deaf and hard of hearing, deaf blind people in all of the state. What is ACDHH's values? Does the agency value feedback and conversation? Does the agency consider that because we have a board, we are representative of those different voices? Because not everybody is able to vote. Not everybody is able to have participation in the meeting. So they are relying on their representation to speak in their behalf. I think that's kind of where I wonder which what is the function of a board? What is the purpose of a board? If you're and also how are we using that alongside the feedback from the community? If ACDHH is taking feedback from the community, or is it the responsibility of the representative as, aspects of the board to get that feedback? I'm not really sure how I answer that question, but those are my thoughts.
Thank you. What would you like to do? Would you like to have an event that's virtual and an in-person event? Just a virtual town hall? Or what do you want?
My current stance is that we also, as board members, have a responsibility for the state of Arizona. So their input is incredibly valuable. Yes, I agree. How do we show that we're taking their desires and values into consideration if we go ahead and make a decision without that feedback? That's where I'm a little on the board, right? Like the meet and greet that we're doing should be both virtual and in person simultaneously. So that way the entire state of Arizona can participate. But from what I'm also thinking, we might have a separate town hall, virtual only, discussing what do the DEP members in the state of Arizona want. Or there could potentially be a survey, which might be easier, but as we know, it's tough to get our DEP members to participate in a survey at times. So a virtual town hall might be the best. Asking the question, what do you guys want in a leader? Give it an hour, collect feedback, the end, do a survey. So that way we have double accessibility. We've got a video version that's in sign language, and then we've also got a written version. It's my suggestion.
I like that idea. I'm wondering what you, Commissioner Herron, have to say.
I might be a little confused. The meet and greet, the town hall feedback, ACDHH staff feedback surveys. Are we talking about wanting to ask people and get ideas and input for the executive director, what people want? Or because I think we've missed the boat on that already, that train has left the station long ago, but that's something we should have done ages ago. We are already in the process. We've already screened candidates. We've already got interviews questions. We've got finalists. So I think we've moved well past that point as far as that goes. So if we're getting input from the community, what are we doing with that input? What are we bringing that back to? Are we using that to redesign our questions? I'm not really sure about the timeline for that and the purpose of that feedback and that input. Or do we mean regarding to our two finalists, not making a decision on an offering until we get the input from the community, and then the board would have a meeting, and then we would talk about selecting a final candidate. What are we talking about?
Yeah, good point.
Very good point. I think that you're absolutely right. The perfect example of us missing the boat there. Now, if I recall, this wasn't at the last meeting, it would have been 2 meetings ago. It was asked that we add this agenda item to the agenda because the deaf, deaf blind, hard of hearing, and deaf plus community wanted to be a part of this, and that's my understanding. How can we ensure that the input from the community is included? Commissioner Herron?
This is Commissioner Herron. We could do what NAD attempted to do not too long ago in their search process. I mean, we won't talk about the results of that, but what I thought was pretty cool that they did was they had an open forum. They allowed people to watch the interviews. The interviews were pre-taped. So I'm so on that. But if we could somehow record and show the live interview, or film and show the live interview, and then after the interview has concluded, we would have an opportunity for public input, and that's when you would get feedback from our constituents, and that would be brought to the board for consideration and final determination. And maybe the board does not make a vote that evening. We move forward with the interviews, allow the public to give input, and then we would have to schedule a special meeting for the board to vote on their final selection.
When you were talking about the way that NAD conducted their executive search to fill the CEO position, I was watching that pre-recorded interview that was made available to the public, and I was watching how the community was responding. Their process and their approach was very different than what I'm used to. But you might be onto something there, Commissioner Herron. We will absolutely conduct our interviews, but this is just an idea, not one that you definitely need to agree with. But we could utilize a similar model. But why don't we make it kind of like a campaign platform for the candidates where they can introduce themselves, share with us their life experiences and their journey. It could be a 10, 15, 20-minute presentation, whatever it is we decide on. They can give their speech, their platform speech, and then we could have community members provide feedback on what they liked. They could say maybe this candidate has strong experience in legislation, or this candidate has strong experience in grant writing. We'll pay close attention to their demeanor, their presence, and how they present and sell themselves. So that's an idea. I'm wondering what the commissioners are thinking about that. I see Commissioner Herron has her thinking face on.
Indeed, my husband's always joking with me and how I think. So yeah,
Yeah, well, I'll give you some time to think. I see that Commissioner Herron, or excuse me, Commissioner Kidd has a comment. And I do want to recognize that here in the Zoom chat, there's a message from Brian saying that candidates make a presentation and then take questions from the community. They should be the same questions for both finalists.
okay.
You want some time to think, Commissioner Herron?
Wow, I know this is more work But perhaps we could develop a interview package for the final two, which would include the first part would be to present to the community, and that would be shared through ACDHH's e-news. And then we'll give a week's time for individuals to provide input. And then we'll follow up with the same questions for both candidates. And that will be asked during the interview with the board. And then we could put together something to that effect. Brian, what do you think about that?
And what do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into a little bit. Sorry, I'm trying to get my video back on. It's getting a little complex, but I think if I recall, now this is a lot of memory, so you'll have to bear with me. It was over when we were going to do it last year. It was going to be a presentation in person to the community. And then I like what Commissioner Herron said about, actually, I'm not sure if it was Commissioner Herron, so I apologize. But opening up to community to ask questions, right? That could be correct if you were doing it all at one time, but you would have to have that one community, or those, you'd pick 3 community members and they have questions and they get to each one of them gets to each ask their question to each candidate, right? So it's the same process, and then it's easier to judge that way and go from there. But yeah, present to the community, I mean, if you want to do it slightly different and get community input, that's different. I'm not sure how we're gonna, I don't really have anything standard to do that. Maybe Trila does, how we're going to get that feedback from the community. That's the part that I'm unclear on. But if we were doing in person, that's kind of what I was putting in the chat was, okay, you could do that. They do a presentation, talk about like they said, like, oh, here's my approach for how I would run the organization or run a business or run the commission, right? Or for the commission for the deaf and hard of hearing, and then get into questions. But I think that's where I'm at right now, but I definitely would need a little more time to think it through.
I think we're struggling with our timeline. That is our greatest barrier at this moment. So, I mean, we could stick to the original plan that we had from our previous attempt to select an executive director before, follow that same example. Just make sure that we are advertising to the community and we're welcoming public input in advance. Yeah, it's not an easy situation.
While you're thinking, I do want to recognize that we have 2 other commissioners who would like to say something. We'll go to Commissioner Kidd, who's had his hand up for a while, and then Commissioner Bomarsich. We'll start with you, Commissioner Kidd.
All right. Got 3 thoughts going on right now. 2, maybe 3. We can figure it out as we go. But yes, the concept of having that interactive process with the public, it would also bring a spotlight to ACDHH as an organization. Oh, wow, this is something unique, different, could draw a bit more of a crowd and more attention to ACDHH, which I would view as a big plus. Could be a big negative in the aspect of costs. Who's going to be liable for filming, keeping the professional aspect running, and advertising? Those are all costs that are being added to this process. So does cost, does that factor fall on ACDHH or ADOA? That's kind of a question I'm sitting with right now. Do you know, Brian? George, Brian, I'm sorry. It's Brian today.
Yeah.
I believe that
Brian
would be
answer that.
those costs would be to the commission. That is my best recollection. I have to double check, but I would almost venture to say, because I know we're working with some other we're looking for directors for other agencies too, and the same thing, like whether we're spending money on advertising on LinkedIn or something like that, that cost comes from the agency. So usually it's from the agency, from my experience. So, but I would have to double check and verify with George. And then the one last thing I would say, and I'm thinking of what everybody's saying, cost and everything. Maybe we go through the first round, we get to the finalists. Typically that would be 2. Maybe we interview them virtually. We record that, and now we'll have to have some disclosures with the candidates that we're going to record this interview, that it's going to be viewed shared with the public, those kind of things. Then you could get your feedback. That's just a recording. Like we could record a Google Meets or a Zoom meeting. Therefore you can get some feedback that way. Then you could actually bring them in to a actual board meeting, if you will, and make them do a presentation and have those questions. It's almost like a 3-stepper right there. And then have the questions for the public at the end too. That was just a suggestion. I know I'm pressed for time, so I have 9 more minutes. Thank you.
Commissioner Kidd here. Yeah, I agree with recording the interview. It's going to be the cheapest way. But then at the same time, less of a wow factor that I was going for, that's just my opinion. But I do have a third comment, but I want to see what Commissioner Bolmarsich has to say.
Thank you. And we'll go to Commissioner Bolmarsich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually wasn't planning to say anything about this topic. Mine is sort of parallel. So if you want to finish this discussion first, I'm happy to wait. It's up to you. Do you want me to go on?
Yeah, why don't you go on?
Okay, in terms of getting feedback, particularly from the public, during the last search last fall, the public comments played an enormous role in the search. Which is fine, except a number of those comments did not appear to be from the constituencies that we represent. Not the deaf or the hard of hearing or the deafblind or audiologists or interpreters. So I wondered, we have to have public comments, but what I'm hoping with something like a town hall, we can also get direct feedback from members of the community. Does all that make sense? Because I don't want to see the public comments in a search that's really important to the community to be taken over by people who aren't really members of the community, at least not consistently. And that's all I got. So I think maybe that's something we just need to keep an eye on. But I do think dedicated feedback from events is important, because that way we know it's coming from the staff or from the members of the community directly.
Very valid point you make there. We'll go to Commissioner Herron and then Commissioner Kidd.
So I want to be careful and not to exclude certain groups of individuals. Interpreters are an essential part of the deaf and hard of hearing community. Well, hard of hearing individuals may have a different experience. That's might be where Commissioner Bolmarsich and I have different thoughts. But interpreters are community members, and the licensing program, the licensing is through the agency or through the commission. So, and I understand, taking over and holding hostage the discussion for one group. I understand that point. I just want to make it clear that interpreters are a very integral part of our agency.
I
Yes, and I'll
mentioned
let Commissioner Bolmarsich
list.
make a follow-up comment.
Okay, so just let me be clear. I mentioned interpreters in my list. What I was talking about was people who were part of a candidate's life, offering kind of character references in the public comments. That's what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned. I want to include interpreters. They're appropriate.
Understood.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with that. I think it's important that we have balance of input from our community members, and not just accepting the bulk of input from one specific part of the community or aspect. So yeah, I'm not sure with our very restrictive timeline that we're facing. We had 1 year, but this is all coming to head at the last minute, and our available resources, our availability with staff. I think we should just move forward with the same model as we did from the previous round of interviews. And that's just my thoughts.
Okay, Commissioner Kidd.
Okay. I hope Brian's still here. I had a question for you, Brian.
Yeah, we have him till 5:40.
Okay, yeah, that's why I was trying to catch him before he left.
Time
You
is
still
of
here,
the
Brian?
essence.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Is it to address both? This is for Commissioner Bolmarsich and Heron's concern. If we could address that, is it possible to add some sort of little just phrase or area on there saying what is your role in the community? So that way it can be documented that this individual is deaf, this individual identifies as hard of hearing, to give those individuals an option to identify themselves. That way we could pre-screen the applicant, the questions rather, instead of just getting a bunch from a bunch of hearing people, right? And we're like, that's not even representative of our community that we serve. Is that possible, Brian?
I think if I'm hearing you correctly, like that's in reference to the community feedback, correct?
Yes, right.
Yeah, like that's uncharted territory for us on getting community feedback. So how you vet that's like the whole process we'd have to come up with. I don't disagree with like maybe you have a set member, 10 people in the community, and those you pick those 10 people and you get the feedback from them, right? So then you have the same 10 people giving the same feedback for the 2 people. I don't know.
That's not
what you're wanting.
No, that's even more work. I feel like to do it that way, and we're not trying to run in, possible public.
Yeah, I get, because I think everybody's concern
right?
is you want members in the community,
and you don't want any kind of backlash,
right? Like you don't want. I'm not really in the community that well. Like I'll use myself as an example, right? Like you don't want feedback from me who doesn't participate in a lot of the events or the community, right? Like, so you want actual community members giving that feedback, right? So if I'm understanding that correctly.
Yes, but we also have to take into consideration people that aren't members of the community anyways. For example, they could have a child could potentially be deaf in the future or a blind child in the future, and they're concerned, and it's a valid concern that they would have. Mm-hmm. Commissioner Bolmarsich's concern was that the last round apparently had a lot of feedback from a specific members of the community that weren't really representative of the entire community. And there's a questioning of like, where did this amount come from this specific niche? Whereas if we had documentation of who that question is coming from, which part of the community is, we can help use it in our search and say, yeah, this is great feedback, but at the same time, not necessarily from someone that is as high of a priority and valid as others.
I mean, off the top of my head, maybe you just create a form, right? And that you make people feel like for community feedback, right? Please fill out this form, give your feedback, and then we can document that. And we ask for a name, title, what their affiliation is, or stuff like that, and then that's how you get your feedback that way. I don't know. I'm not that familiar, but that was just off the top of my head. And at least keep it organized and somewhat,
Yeah.
name those kind of things, so that and then you have to wait,
That's perfect.
non-members, those kind of things.
Yeah, I just didn't know if ADOA really allowed that.
Yeah, that's a separate question. I'd have to find out. I don't know off the top of my head. I apologize for that. But.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that before, we're running in the dark without you here.
No, I appreciate it. I apologize that I have to leave. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Brian. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. Okay. It's a lot to think about here. Commissioner Kidd?
Yeah. So now for my next question, could we defer this topic to the next meeting because we do not have a determined time or date yet? Or
We could table this topic, but someone needs to make a motion.
I'm a little leaning towards
Commissioner Herron, the Queen of Parliament?
No, parliamentary, yes, procedure. We don't have a motion on the floor. It just says discussion and action. I think we are asking to add the remaining agenda items to the next meeting's agenda.
But
Commissioner Kidd?
Yeah, I did want to discuss the next topic though as soon as possible.
No, that's fine.
But for this current one, if we could, how about this? Can I do this? I'll move to table. Okay.
Yeah, there's no motion, so you can move on and start a new discussion.
And it does say action on the agenda. The reason why I asked for it to be tabled is the agenda item is listed as an action item.
Okay, well, I move to move that or assign that discussion to our next search committee meeting.
And I think that everyone is probably in agreement that we will table these agenda items to our next meeting. That is the ACDHH staff feedback survey.
Okay, so that's the one. I believe somebody brought this up during our last meeting, and we wanted to take ACDHH's staff's feelings into consideration. So I would like for us to make a short, it can be an informal survey sent to the staff asking what do they see? What would they like to see in their next boss or the future director for ACDHH? We think we could do it. I'm thinking we could just draft something up, like I said, an informal survey, have the board approve it, and Kyla, does the board have to approve something like that, or do we have to assign it to somebody and then send it to Kyla to garner feedback? I'm not sure how that process works here, since this isn't an easy, organized state agency. So I'm just not quite sure how to process that.
Commissioners Bolmarsich, Herron, do either of you have any thoughts? Commissioner Herron.
Okay, it's a little more complicated than it may look. The question is, who will develop the survey? Second, who will administer that survey? Yes, Kyla works for the board, but she's also a staff member. So she needs to be part of that input or feedback process as well. So how will we roll out the process ensuring that she's also a part of it? But that does require more time to develop and disseminate those questions. So who's going to take that on? That's our big question. And again, like I said, we're out of time, unless we are willing to, just completely move for or postpone hiring somebody, and just the interim director cannot continue after December 30th. So please be mindful of that end date. And she is working and coordinating and doing a lot. So we need to keep that in mind.
Now, just to throw this out there, could we utilize AI to develop our survey?
I mean, this is Commissioner Herron. I can develop a survey or some questions. I guess of all of everyone on the commission, I'm the most retired. But I also have a life as well. But I think it's more than that. Because I'll develop the questions and then we have to meet again and review them. And then once we have consensus or, vote on those questions, it's just more work for all of us.
Also, that is why I said informal. And that's why I was trying to bring it up at the last meeting, but then we had to table it. So that's where, if we are able to do this informally, is that permissible legally, or does this have to go through a formal process? Because if we could do it informally, we could send a survey through email. We could get responses really quickly. We could get that information, summarize it. AI can even help summarize it. Is that permissible? I don't see, we don't have the AG representative today, right? So I don't want to make any assumptions
It looks like we lost our AAG.
without. Kyla, was she here on the call earlier?
No? Okay.
Okay. Okay, then I would rather, so that would be my preference. That's my issue. I want to pull staff input in, but I also don't want to run afoul of the law. So I would have to say cancel that conversation then, since we don't.
To be fair, kid, you're always on the wrong side of the law. I've known you for 20 plus years.
I mean,
No. On serious matter, we'll go to Commissioner Herron.
So it is my understanding that at the previous interviews, the applicants or the finalists rather had an opportunity to mingle with the staff. And there was a survey there, and the executive director took care of that. We could just copy and paste what we already have, and
why reinvent the wheel?
Exactly. No need to reinvent the wheel. Let's just use that format. I'm sure Kyla has access to that file that the previous director created. Yeah. So problem solved. There we go.
All right. Problem solved. All right. Great.
And that just makes sense.
Just keep in mind that we will have to schedule time for the finalists to meet with staff. So that will have to be as part of the agenda as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Herron. Yeah, that makes so much sense. We do not need to reinvent the wheel. It makes sense to use what we already have. We can make some minor tweaks to things here and there. Now, it seems like everyone is in agreement I want to check in with you, Commissioner Bomarsic.
No, I'm good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Awesome. Okay. It sounds like we will be utilizing the same format to garner staff feedback like we did last time around. Does someone need to make a motion?
This is
Commissioner Herron.
Commissioner Herron, I move that we use the same form for the staff feedback and survey from the previous interviews.
We have a second.
Randall.
We have
This is
a
Randall.
second from Commissioner Kidd. No one abstains. That motion carries. The next item on our agenda is the future meeting schedule. Do we want to talk about availability now and schedule our next meeting? Or should we work with Kyla to send out a poll to determine everyone's availability? Commissioner Herron?
Well, see, the problem is if other people aren't here to discuss it, so I move that we use Kyla to help us find the best date for our next meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Bomarsic?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Commissioner Bomarsic. Commissioner Swenson hasn't been able to attend the last couple meetings. I know Commissioner Cohen's had to miss a few as well. So I wonder if we could really make an effort to find times that work for them, because they too represent important parts of the ACDHH community, the deafblind and interpreters. I know that's a pain, and I'm really sorry, Kyla, but that is just a concern.
You are completely fine. I understand your concern. I had a similar concern today when I learned that both of the commissioners wouldn't be here today to represent their communities. Sometimes life just happens, and there are certain circumstances that are just beyond our control. So it's important that we give our representatives grace where we can. But I do want to take a moment to talk about this just for a moment. This is something that I planned to talk about. It's really important that we make an effort to come together to have our discussions. It's important for the agency, of course, to have an ongoing and permanent executive director to lead and to be the face of the agency. It's also important that members of our community have someone to look to for guidance. The work that we're doing here, even though it's volunteer-based, it is so important. Many of us work in public service, and the individual that will be selected for, we are in governor appointed positions as commissioners. So I want us to keep that in mind as we're having these conversations. As for our representatives who are not able to make it here today, I will have a conversation with them to ask them what their schedules are looking like. Several of us have 9-to-5 jobs, which I completely understand, but I will do my best and do my due diligence as your board chair to find time that works for everyone. If you ever have any concerns about attendance, or if you have any schedule conflicts, please know that you are more than welcome to reach out to me at any time. You can just ask Kyla for my email address or my phone number so you can text me. She will give that to you. I want to make sure that we're all aligned and that we're working on this together. And please know that I'm here to support you in any way that I can. I will be working with Kyla, and I will speak with our other representatives to determine the best time to schedule these meetings. In the meantime, I will entertain a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else that anyone else would like to say. Commissioner Kidd? Or no? Okay, Commissioner Bulmarsich.
Oh, I was just going to move to adjourn. Or second Commissioner Kidd, if that's what he was saying.
I think you
Okay,
both are
that
on
was
the
my
same
same time.
page. I think you were on the same page there. I think it's a good time to call it a night. Commissioner Herron?
I have a question. Why did all three of the commissioners wear red today?
I missed the memo.
Yeah, Commissioner Sanko, you did not get the memo.
Read your
No one,
emails.
no one told me. I have 145 unread emails right now.
All right, bye.
Thank you, everyone, for a productive meeting. And thank you so much for running with my jokes here. It was a much needed thing. Have a good week. Happy October. It's finally cooling out outside. Make sure you get out there and make the most of it.